thanks for tuning in. You know, he's only been on the job 5 weeks now, and already he's facing a crushing tax loss revenue that could force a tax increase. The North Island Hospitals project is as fractious as ever. Time is running out on approval of the new Sustainable Official Community Plan, and Jobs Minister Pat Bell is bringing a major economic development forum to Campbell River in just a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, expectations are running high, and if that's not scary enough, he's agreed to be the first guest on our new program. I'm Dan MacLennan. This is FaceTime with Campbell River Mayor Walter Jakeway. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down on relatively short notice.
Right.
I got to ask you, was there a moment, I mean, you run a campaign, was there a moment when suddenly it hits you, I'm the mayor?
Yes, I think the night that I returned from City Hall chambers back to election headquarters at Stillwater Books, and I walk into the room and they're all sitting there waiting after 2 hours or more as we all watched you on TV.
A long evening.
And you go like, whoops, guess what? It happened. And that's when it struck me. The group sitting there, they saw it in my face that this has finally hit.
Was it a surprise, or was it one of those things where you've worked at it so long that it just feels natural?
It's a relief. I don't know how the U.S. politicians can stand it for 2 years trying to run for president.
Perpetual election campaign.
Absolutely. I think 6 or 7 weeks I'd had enough. It was time to get on with it.
Well, we've got a little bit of material here from your inauguration evening, which was December 6th, if memory serves. Let's have a look at the official passing of the chain, which isn't always thought of as the turnover of office, but that's what it's become in recent years. We've got some video here.
Would the former mayor come forward, Mr. Cornfield? And this is the time where you present that rather heavy object to the new mayor.
Put together a few years ago now, I guess it was. It doesn't have a long-standing history, but it's been through a few mayors now.
Right.
Is it heavy?
Yes, it is. And it's physically heavy, but it's even going to be longer because it needed some repairs, and we're now adding a few inches to it while it's out for repair.
You make it sound like Marley's chain here.
So it's going to be, it's going to be a few inches longer.
But it survived the evening.
It did survive the evening.
You noticed it was going.
I noticed there was a link or two that needed some adjustment in repairs, so it's getting repaired and it should be back very quickly.
So after the swearing in, after you got the chain on, it was time for the inaugural speech. We've got a little clip of the mayor's inaugural address as well.
Campbell River is in fierce competition with hundreds of other global communities, but nature has stacked the deck in our favor. So now it's up to us to work hard to make our future, all of us. On a dark and wet evening, driving through town, Campbell River may look like a bunch of damp streets, dark buildings, and cold red pipe structures. But no, it's more than that. It's the people, our people, who add the life, the spirit, the music, the flowers, the flavors, the aroma, the pulse, and the curiosity. Together, let's build on those themes starting right now. Thank you, Campbell River. Thank you for coming out tonight, and good evening, everyone.
So that was our introduction to Walter Jakeway as Campbell River Mayor. Pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
In the last few swearing-ins, it's become kind of an event in itself. Were you surprised to see how many? There was a few hundred people there.
Yeah. No, it was excellent. It was really affirming that we were on a new direction, and to have that many people care to show up, considering the turnout, which was quite slim for an election.
Oh, the voter turnout.
Yeah. And then to have that many people show up to actually see the new soldier show up was pretty good. It was.
So then you show up at the office, shall we say, and there is no shortage of things that had to be dealt with yesterday
Right.
and are developing as we go. And the first one that comes to mind, it wasn't right away, but it was pretty soon thereafter. The BC assessment notices come out. We all get them in the mail.
Right.
The city gets a nasty, which was more or less anticipated.
Right.
The catalyst mill is down, the assessment is down 1.8 million, and that means there's a big hole there that the city has to fill
Correct.
or find
Right.
in order to balance the books in a budget that is only weeks or months away, depending on
Right.
how we go through the process. What are you doing at the moment to deal with what looks like a big hole and whispers tax increase?
Okay. So obviously I ran for targeting for a 0% tax increase.
Right.
And I'm still personally shooting in that direction, but it's not looking as easy to do as I thought. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't think it was going to be this tough.
Right.
So what we've got is our staff still preparing the budget, but also generating options to present to council on how to try to mitigate some of the problems we've got. And it's actually bigger than it looks, because last year in the previous council, they used 1.1 million of reserves to try to force the tax increase down. So that's added in as well. So
That's right. Some of the taxes we paid last year were actually to try and shore things up so that we wouldn't get hit so hard this year.
But we also dug into our savings account at $1.1 million. So we're really up to the $3.6 million, $3.7 million hole that we've got to try to fill in. And I'm pushing to not fill that with reserves. Living out of your savings account is short-lived. You're better to cut your costs, rearrange, change your priorities to get it out of your current money coming in. So we're going to use this process, this time. We may take an extra week or two to do it, but we're actually going to change the way we run City Hall within to try to live within the actual, out of our checking account essentially, not keep dipping into savings.
That's a tall order, given
is a
that
tall
the
order.
budget process is pretty much breaking on us as we speak.
Right. But this is the time, if you're ever going to change something, we're newly elected. We've got the biggest problem we're going to have probably in our term. So let's get it dealt with properly right off the bat.
Can this town handle $2 million worth of service cuts?
Yeah, because it's not all going to show up in service cuts. There's some things that are kind of invisible that, for example, contingency. Council has contingencies allowed in the budget.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to probably eliminate them to zero. We won't have any contingency for ourselves, right? Just eliminate some of these things that we kind of carry along as costs. The other thing to remember is a budget is only a plan. The money's not really spent till you actually spend it. So even if we approve a budget, we're going to continue to cut costs through the remaining of the year. Like as things show up and we dig more and more and more and continue the change process, we're going to keep cutting costs throughout the year to so hopefully end up at the end of the year with a positive. And so we're going to do a monthly or every 6 weeks, do an update on where we're at to keep on looking and squeezing. Like we got to just keep on squeezing and just try to avoid digging into the savings accounts because that's fatal.
Meanwhile, the message has gone out there to all the department heads. You're coming back with some cuts. What has been the basic message to them? How big a cut do you want?
We need to go down 15, 16%. Of course, we're looking at residential. We've assumed we're not going to add to business costs, right? Commercial and business. If any hit's going to come to the residential, because the economic side, the commercial side of our town can't handle anymore, and there is a tolerance at the residential level. Some people are saying don't go to zero. We're willing to take a little bit of a hit, but I'm still adamant. Personally, remember I'm only 1 vote out of 7.
Right.
I'm still pretty pushing for the zero. I believe if we're going to sell our town to get businesses to come here and people to move here, it's got to be attractive by being different. And if we have a zero after all this, we will definitely show the rest of the world and certainly the rest of the province that we're different.
Did you come up with an arbitrary figure that you could go to the Parks and Recs department or Public Works or whatever and say, okay, come back with
No,
10%
right now
less
we're
than
letting
you did?
them do it. They know that it's desperate. So let them show, they know where the details are within their departments. They know what they can cut without fouling up too much.
Right.
So let them have first kick at it. if they can't make it, then we'll do the next squeeze for them.
And when does that
That's about at the end of the month.
end of the month, they'll be coming to you and saying, here's what we think we can cut, and now what do you think about?
Right. So the other thing that's going on is this year I've got assigned portfolios to each council person.
Right, a change from the last term,
Right. And Andy Adams has finance,
as he did before the last
and
term.
he loves it. I mean, that's his thing. That's right up his alley. So I'm letting him run it. He's taken the lead. He's got a big list of his own, but he's got each council person putting in their ideas. And I believe some of the senior civil servant people are putting theirs in as well. So they're all contributing ideas. I'm hoping to be able to find a way to canvass all the city employees on how to save money. I mean, they're the people who are spending the money. They're out there every day in the trenches. I'm sure that the answer is somewhere within the ranks of our employees on how to get the costs out. We need to get out there and find out who they are and listen to them and find a way to pull those ideas in.
And there's a potential multiplier effect here too that we haven't really talked about publicly yet, but if there's a decrease in the assessment from the Catalyst mill, it not only hits the city to the tune of 1.8 million,
Right.
it also hits the school board. I think it hits the regional district. And from that one taxpayer point of view, that means I, as a taxpayer, am not only going to have to face that loss of tax revenue on the city's behalf, I'm going to have to face it on the school board, or in the form of that school levy, as well as the regional district.
Well, I know one thing, if we can be successful, then people like the school board who have a way bigger budget, they better figure out how to be successful too. So we're going to lead by example. We're going to show that we can do it, and from that, hopefully others will follow.
Did it feel to you going through this campaign that really, as Bill Clinton once said, it's the economy, stupid. It's all about the economy. There was talk of arts and culture, and we actually devoted more time to that during the campaign than we have in past. But it seemed as though we always came back, maybe because we're in a town with a big vacant mill site out
Exactly.
there. It seemed we kept coming back to that over and
It all comes down to money in the end. Money is what makes it go, right? And people are important, absolutely. But we help people with money, we do things with money. Money is the tool to get the result. And so let's get the money under control. And I mean, one of the reasons I ran is I watched the money not be well handled over the last few years. I know that I could have done a better job of it, having done it in the pulp industry where our budgets were even bigger there. And we can make it, it'll work. It's manageable.
So the economy is obviously still on the minds of lots of Campbell Riverites, and our intrepid FaceTime streeter team went out and hit the streets just last week, and we asked people what should be the mayor's first order of business.
First order of business for our new mayor? Find us some jobs, please. Campbell River is not like it used to be. Bring something back so that the young people have a chance to get on with their life.
I think the first order of business should be to make Campbell River once more a vibrant, viable community economically and culturally, and in every other way. I think that the vacant retail and office space is an eyesore.
I avoid dogwood at any cost, and I live on McFedrin Road, so the overflow is on my street. Maybe they should come down onto my street between 8 and 9:30 and between 4 and 6 and try and get out of your driveway or pull into your driveway with vehicles passing.
Cleaning up the downtown area. You can't help but notice that there are bits of trash lying around near the beds of foliage and whatnot downtown.
I think that he should revitalize the downtown area. You know, like all these dead buildings over here, try to get some condos or something in there. That 6 mile or 6 acre property over there, I mean, that's what I think.
What we need to do is create a small industrial park or something outside of the town limits somewhere, where a normal, decent person, not a university educated person, but somebody with, say, a 12th grade education, can go and make a decent wage and look after their family.
What is he doing right now? Not 1 month or 2 months from now or 3 months. What is the immediate action right now in stimulating this economy?
So jobs. What are you doing for the economy? Downtown revitalization, traffic on Dogwood. Overall, your thoughts?
I like them all. I'm glad I wasn't too far off in my guess of how the public would feel. McPhedran, definitely. I put a big sign. I ran big signs in my election. That was the only residential street that had a main residential street that had a big sign on it, because there is a lot of traffic on McPhedran, too much traffic on McPhedran. And it's the Dogwood problem again, which it's being addressed. The request has gone in to city staff to fix the Dogwood problem. I gave them a few suggestions. I've watched it, and I agonized over the delay that it's taken since it first went in, and it's still not right, and it's going to get fixed.
Well, we keep hearing from staff, though, that we've done this, and
Yeah, well-
we've tinkered, and it's coming around, and
There comes
people
a
just
time
have
when
to
you
get
just
used to
quit
it.
doing studies and just do what's right. And I've got 3 ideas for them to do what's right, in my view. And I'm not trying to be the engineer for the city, but there comes a point where you can listen to all the studies and all the consultants, and you finally just do what's right.
Have you given them a time, like when I want to hear back from you?
Nope, they've got a few more weeks, and I'll wait a little bit. I gave myself 90 days from the time any time I went into a new job, and I've been to several pulp paper mills in my life, coming in new, you give yourself 90 days before you start really putting your foot down.
Mm-hmm.
But hidden, quiet suggestions is a good way to start, and then if that doesn't work, then you put your foot down a little harder. But we need to, well, I can tell you what they are. I think we need to eliminate advanced left turn lanes at 4th, 7th, and at Evergreen.
4th, 7th, and Evergreen,
Right.
okay.
Right.
They do have a place at 2nd.
Yep, and at Muircroft,
Muircroft.
and at 9th Avenue.
And at 9th, obviously,
Yep.
where there was an advance, has been for years.
Right.
So that's
my view of what needs to be done. They're having a chance to mull that over and see if I'm right or not.
Now, on the jobs front, obviously, we've got the big pilot project,
Right.
regional economic development from the Ministry of Jobs, Tourism and Innovation.
Right.
Minister Pat Bell coming here on the 30th
Right.
to hold this pilot project forum. There's this build happening. But before we get to that, is there, what can the Campbell River Mayor do to develop jobs in his community?
Okay, well, that's happened. That was very well timed. It came about. It was being announced as soon as we got sworn in, which was great. And I credit Mayor Charlie Cornfield and the previous council for playing up and selling Campbell River to the people in Victoria, and that it was their efforts that brought that along, which was great. I mean, the timing was fantastic from a political point of view. There are many other things going on in town. It's amazing when you're on the inside, you see lots of things happening. Catalyst has several groups looking at what to do with the Catalyst site. You've also seen ads in the paper over the Christmas season of a change in zoning in the downtown area. There's actually, obviously that was done for a reason. There's something happening there. We can't say what it is yet, but even at Tuesday night's meeting, we passed the bylaw to change the taxation in that area because there is something going on. We wouldn't have done that for no reason.
There was already an incentive program there,
Right.
and you sweetened the pot a little bit.
We had an initiative come right out of the blue on us since being sworn in. Just somebody came along and said, with a little bit of brokering going on, but there's a group interested in doing something there, and that's what's brought that on.
And how soon
Very
might we hear about this?
Very soon.
Oh,
But we needed to do the bylaw change the other day to make it happen.
I see.
So there's something happening there.
And so now you've got Pat Bell and you've got the provincial machinery coming to town, and they don't do this sort of thing if they're not expecting to come away with results to show for it. In fact, he said as much we're looking for a place where we can show results
and we're willing to help them make that our place. Now, the other thing I'm doing, and I'm not trying to offend people by copying them, but I believe if you copy somebody, that's an ultimate compliment for the originator. So the Pat Bell initiative, there's obviously a limitation on seating and how many people you can accommodate in brainstorming sessions and such. So it's around 65 people. I'm pushing to have a second one, and if we have to, a third one, to accommodate the people who aren't able to get into the first one. I know there's a huge reserve of ideas out in the community. Not everybody's going to get in on the first one, and I'm just trying to be tactful on how to make the second one happen without offending the originator. I'm not trying to steal anything from the first one, but I know there's going to be overflow of ideas for the second one. And in my inaugural speech, I mentioned to the population that there's going to be times in our term when we're going to be looking for ideas, and I encourage people to come forward, even crazy ideas or seemingly strange ideas. And this is going to be a time we're now looking for ideas. So the Pat Bell thing will happen, and it'll be awesome. And hopefully soon after, there'll be one immediately after for some more. And if we can't accommodate everybody in that one, we'll have another one.
You want some momentum.
We want to keep it going, and we want everybody to have their say. This is a time at this stage to get your ideas in, and we got to be open to those ideas.
Now, there's, of course, been talk of a second growth high-speed sawmill to handle all the second growth on the north end of the island. That's been talked about. Communities have been jockeying for that for a long time. There's also been the suggestion from the minister that, well, heck, I mean, aquaculture is obviously another place to go. There's all sorts of opportunities here. Have you heard anything else bubbling to the surface?
Not so far, but I've got my ideas. And I got one that's probably going to surprise a lot of people. But I have no connections to autism at all. I have no relatives who are autistic or not. I have a slight understanding of what the autism issue is, but I think it would be awesome if we could make Campbell River an autism center, to have a credible center here to start to support people that have autism and the families, and support people for those folks, because there's a huge need, and I think senior governments are having trouble figuring out how to address that need. And if we can become different by having that sort of a center, people who are specialists in that will be here. It's very labor intensive. There is lots of money available to address it, and I think senior governments will see us as a potential source of a small solution to that problem.
Well, we'll have to see how that plays out.
It's one right out of the blue for people, but I think it actually came out of a networking group that I belong to. I had a brainstorming session last spring, and one of the members of the brainstorming said, here's the thing you could do that would really solve a problem.
Identify the need.
Yep.
Let's move on. North Island Hospital's plan has such a history, predating your time on council.
Yeah. And I got into it big time right off the bat.
Exactly. And the latest we've heard is that the business plan now, the business case, has actually been completed and has moved on to government. What had happened just before that was VHA President CEO Howard Waldner had gone looking for letters of support, and the last letter of support was asking the Campbell River doctors, as well as the Comox Valley doctors, to support the concept of one unified workforce. In other words, all the physicians would be essentially shared between two hospitals. Campbell River doctors do not like that idea. They say it's a recipe for further deterioration of services here.
Right.
The phrase, let's turn the hospital into a 100-bed walk-in clinic, was thrown about. And so that was sort of the status quo where we left it.
Right.
Have you had any indications from Mr. Waldner or VHA in general that this concept of the two autonomous hospitals versus the unified one campus approach, as they call it, has got any traction?
Okay, well, I'm a person who doesn't leave anything just hanging loose, so I've gone after VHA and Mr. Waldner, and I invited him almost immediately after the previous medical staff meeting to come up and give a public presentation at the Tidemark in the middle of January and be open to a question and answer period. And they've declined that because they don't want to jump ahead of the politicians in Victoria announcing what's coming. Right. So, but what he has done, he's agreed to meet our city council next week in Parksville, because we're going to be in Parksville for an evening and a day, and he's going to be in that area at the same time. So we're having a Campbell River City Council meeting with him and his staff on our own, And I've also just recently, this morning, met with the chief of staff from the hospital here. We had a great discussion about where we're going. And we've also had some political maneuvering going on in the background through the Liberal Party, into the Victoria bureaucratic organization as well. Oh. So I've got it moving on 3 fronts, because I don't let anything sit until it's settled properly, and this thing's not even close to being settled.
The impression we get is that, indeed, now that the business case has been handed in, VIHA is hoping that we can find out either yay or nay, it's got approval,
right,
and then we can come back and start talking about nuts and bolts.
My concern is, as soon as the money's approved, that their deafness may increase, and I'm not going to let them not listen. They're going to listen.
So I think I'm hearing from you this concept of the 2 hospital or the 1 workforce unit, right, is potentially a deal breaker. We are not going forward, as far as you're concerned, with that model. We have to reopen that discussion.
I learned a long time ago that it's a good idea to have your medical people content, and they're not content. Until they're content, I'm not content, because they're the guys who supply the service, they're the professionals, they bring the support staff, the nurses and others with them. So let's get the doctors happy. And until they're happy, the public will generally follow their doctors. That's usually a good idea. And when they're happy or content or satisfied, then I'll slow down and not keep pushing it. Until then, I keep pushing. And the council will support me, I'm sure.
Just a little bit of time left. Sustainable Official Community Plan. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Right.
It's been underway for, we're told, at least 18 months. I'd swear it was even longer.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it seems like, oh my goodness, we've got 6 weeks or so to put the final stamp on this.
Yep.
Otherwise, we lose about half of the money that it's cost us to do this.
So as I said the other night at council, we can approve it. We need to get it approved to recover our costs, and then we can instantly start to change it. It's only a plan. It's a plan it's a working document for the life of its life.
But doesn't that sort of kick the stuffing out of the plan if you go through all this effort and then you say, well, okay, here, we'll stamp it, we'll approve it, and now let's start making changes?
Okay, well, I checked into the sort of the rule of thumb for official community plan generation and authoring of it, and several senior municipal mayors in other municipalities in BC said sometimes it takes 3 years to do one properly. We've done it in half that time. So don't be disappointed that you only did it in 18 months, because they think you should start the first year of your term, and you might have it, if you're lucky, have it done by the end of your term. So we haven't done too badly, and that's why I'm very tolerant of changes, even though it's approved, to start changing again. I think we've done incredibly well. And certainly from the awards we got for participation of the community, which we got an award for participation, we've done very well. And the more people you have talking and participating, the harder it is to get it done in a timely manner, because you got to listen to them all.
So you've got to hear back from, you've referred this for comment out to the Regional District, Local First Nations, School Board, VIHA,
right,
Agricultural Land Commission. They're going to have 3 weeks to get back to you.
Right.
And you've still got to do a public hearing, which could be a big public hearing, which is essentially the last chance of the public to get their 2 cents worth in before this thing goes for final approval.
And we're having a special in-camera or committee meeting with council next week. That was one of the motions from the other night as well. So it's happening, I think it's Monday evening, for us to hammer it out, our thinking about what's going on.
No shortage of things on the plate.
Nope, fills the day.
Fills the day, I'm sure it does, and it's actually filled our time as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for being our inaugural guest.
Well, thank you, Dan.
On
this is
FaceTime,
great.
And I'm anticipating we will be seeing you here again in
Good.
the future.
Super. Thank you.
In the meantime, we are new at this and we're not proud, so essentially here's where I beg a little bit and say we need your comments, we need your feedback. We'd like to know what you think of the show, what you didn't like about it, what you do like about it. And you can find us on FaceTime. You can find us via email. We've got the contacts up there. Do us a favor and like us. I mean that, like us on FaceTime. Even if you don't like us on FaceTime. So don't make me beg, okay? But thank you for watching us, and we'll be back here in 2 weeks' time with none other than Jason Price, Campbell River Indian Band counselor and former candidate for Campbell River City Council. In the meantime, thanks for watching.